Good evening, everyone. Greetings and love. I am Marcia with Gnoshery Libertas, and you are joining us for Sanctuary episode 41, November 7th, 2022. And this is our total lunar eclipse full moon in Taurus. So we are moving through some big energies tonight, and Spirit is going to speak to them. And if you're just joining us for the first time, Spirit is the word that I use to refer to Source or God or whatever you want to call the nameless that both moves through us, but also has that eagle eye, broader perspective and is able to see that picture that is so much bigger than us, that the, personality or small or limited self, linear self has trouble seeing. It's often just a little too close to our face. So we gather every Monday evening to talk about the weave, which is Spirit's term, Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, whatever you want to call the nameless, the term for how the energies are connecting both internally within us in our interior soul realms, but also how they are showing up in our outer realm, in our outer weave, and also teaching us how to navigate some of these harsher energies that are on the planet right now so that we're coming from a more responsive place rather than a triggered or reactive place. And if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you on these live calls. We meet every Monday evening at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And to become a live guest and to have access to our library of content, our communities, as well as these private live discussions that we offer after each recorded call, you can join us on our Patreon at www.patreon.com/Gnoshery Libertas or on our Buy Me a Coffee at www.buymeacoffee.com/Gnoshery Cafe. And we would absolutely love to have you live on the call with us. Of course, we also feel the energy when you join us in the replay. So please feel free to contribute your energy. Know that it is connecting in the heart space with us live and that we are feeling you. So every Monday evening, Spirit gives me a theme, or what Spirit refers to as a light transmission. And often Spirit will bring forth lyrics that I receive while I'm in meditation. I'm listening to Pandora as I'm doing this, and Spirit's choosing the songs, and I'm kind of feeling in my body certain resonances when lyrics come up that Spirit wants to use to often bring forth a concept that might be hard to understand in a linear way. And of course, music is the poetry of the universe. And so Spirit will often use lyrics to bring us even closer in to the soul, to focus in. And so tonight's transmission is actually a song, I think it's a song lyric, it's also a song title, and it's called Every Broken Place, a Godsend. And it's also referred to as Trust the Landing. And so we'll talk about both of those energies and what Spirit means by that. I do have a cat trying to barrel down my door, so give me one moment and I'll be right back. Everyone's trying to join the call tonight. So, with this light transmission of every broken place, a godsend, and trusting the landing, Spirit wants to talk about this feeling of turbulence that we've been experiencing, and particularly within these eclipse windows that we've had for the last 2 weeks, and how it can feel a lot like we are on an airplane and we don't know how this landing is going to take shape, or like we're a gymnast somersaulting through the air and wondering if we're going to stick the landing or if we're going to, crash our heads into the ground. And so what Spirit wants us to know that while that yes is all taking place, we do have supporting energies during this time. This is a test, an initiation for the collective humanity. And it's also a grand healing, but it does bring with it challenge as we move through what Spirit calls the eye of the dragon. But what it does is it brings the magic and the miraculous closer. And we'll talk tonight about impossible causes. So things that we thought were never going to take shape or just seemed so far out of our reach are suddenly going to be right on our doorstep. And all we have to do is take the small step, the next right action. So we don't have to know, 100 feet ahead or, 6 miles ahead. We only need to know our next right action. And to do what Spirit calls trust the nudge or trust the niggle, that inner sensation that says, get up and do this right now, even if the ego says it's inconvenient, that feeling that comes from within that doesn't really have logic or reason, but allows us to know that we're being guided by the unseen, by the infinite invisible force. And so as we begin to accept that every broken place is indeed a godsend, that allows us then to trust the landing. So the very first thing that Spirit wanted to speak to actually comes through lyrics. And it was, I'd added it up. I'd made up all the plans, but the road I'd paved turned into dust, and I just didn't understand. And so Spirit wanting to kind of comfort the small self or the ego, because a lot of us have experienced what the divine is calling the great reroute. Our GPS, if you're driving along, you think you're going down these roads, and then all of a sudden, it says, oh, please proceed to the route. And you're like, I thought I was already on the route. Like, what's going on here? And so many of us have experienced through this eclipse cycle, this great reroute. And it's the total lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus. And here Spirit said it brings energies of release and relinquishing, particularly any imbalances of power in our lives, particularly in the areas of romance, partnerships, and finance. And it's an energy which is calling in harmony and beauty and balance, fairness, and equity. But Spirit said it will feel sometimes like the ripcord has been pulled out of our weave. And it may feel that life is not supporting us, when in fact, Spirit says the only thing that is leaving is that which was unsupportive of the soul. So we're encouraged not to fear what feels good and to accept pleasure in all of its forms, that we can discern what is best for ourselves without judging others in their experiences. And one of the lines that Spirit taught me long ago is that discernment is knowing what is best for our soul, and judgment is believing we know what is best for another. And so that's something that we really begin to mature into on our path, that when we have discernment, we no longer need to rely on our opinion or our judgments of others or experiences or situations. And during this time, Spirit also wants us to recognize that it might take us longer to process feelings of happiness and liberation, because with these feelings, they also may bring with them grief and bittersweet emotions that are trying to leave the auric field so that we can receive more and more. And once again, Spirit says, trust the landing, that we have divine GPS, the great protection of source. And the lyrics here were, Lord, where are you? You're taking me to only God knows where. And this is truly it. We are going to only God knows where, but we are making improvements in our lives. And Spirit said this requires us to focus only on this moment. As well, we're getting our finances in order. And this Spirit had me write GYST, the gist in all capital letters, which was get your shit together. So this is a huge release of any negative energy or things that have been weighing us down, letting go of unhealthy attachments, habits, and behaviors. And we can no longer ground or fuel another's light grid. So perhaps we were in contract with someone where we were offering them energy or help or light in some way, and they were offering us something in return. Spirit is saying those contracts are now null and void, as we can only ground and fuel our own light grids. But we are to trust that all was purposeful up until now, but now independence is needed. As our true potential is revealed, we're encouraged to stay in the pocket. If we project forward, we will be overwhelmed. But if we remain in our emotions or situations from our past or even nostalgia, then we will be anchored to heavy weaves that no longer serve the soul. So if we are forward leaning into the future or backward leaning into the past, we are not going to be able to feel the true potential, the magic which is being revealed, this illumination, revelation, this confidence boost, this righting of wrongs through divine justice and what Spirit calls a quantum timeline shift and a recalibration of energies on this planet, which connect us on a deeper level to ourselves, to each other, and to being in service to something bigger than ourselves, where we're allowed now to discover true meaning and purpose within our lives. This also is a release of any ancestral baggage, any weighted emotion that we have been carrying, and brings a restoration of health and emotional balance. Now, of course, when all of these energies are flooding the planet, we also have the shadow. And here, Spirit says that the shadow of these energies are acting impulsively or trying to enact our own justice on a situation rather than trusting and allowing divine justice to serve. As well, losing our equilibrium in the energies, so not maintaining our center and focus. Relationship upsets and depression, which results from fears, challenges, and responsibility. So, feeling kind of like the burden of life and depression resulting from that. As well, Spirit speaks to the shadow of emotional coldness, arguments, criticism, unstable, impulsive energy, meanness, nagging, moodiness, bullying, complicated communication, unstable weaves or instability in our relationships, fear, uncertainty, anxious, erratic, unpredictable behavior, deals falling through, arrangements quickly shifting, important decisions and clarity, especially around the areas of relationship, finance, happiness, love, and money, as well as cover-ups revealed both personally and collectively. So that's a lot going on. And Spirit says the additional energies that are here are freedom and independence. So these are the soul qualities that we are gaining through some of these more challenging weaves, focusing on our sexuality and sensuality in a new way, experiencing the death of the weaves which no longer serve us and rebirthing into a new reality, an elevated cycle, and having the fortitude to change our scripts, to kind of embrace that this is a correction of an imbalance of power and it's happening from the divine. And Spirit called this one fell swoop as we move through the collective turnstile. And we're encouraged to focus on gratitude, to focus on patience, persistence, and dedication to our next right action. We will have heightened intuition, and especially we are going to feel the most connected when we are being in service to something larger than ourselves. So we're encouraged to pray, not asking for our prayer, for what we want, but instead asking, how can I be a conduit of grace? How can I be a vessel of love? And so before I move on to the first supporting energy, I'm going to open the floor to any comments. Spirit refers to this as a healing, a test, an initiation, a challenge, and something that I learned through my own inner work with Spirit and my own conscious death in August of 2009 was this notion that the personality, the small self, the ego self, it feels often like we're doing something wrong or off track when we start experiencing hardships or challenges or difficulties in our life, and particularly those which seem unfair. And yet, from the realms of spirit and soul, the inverse is actually true. The soul views hardships and chaos, upheaval and challenge as an opportunity to alchemize a frequency of lower vibration in our weaves into one that is more in alignment with love. And so the very first lyrics here that Spirit brings forth are, oh, every closed door, every single sharp thorn, every answer that didn't make sense. What if maybe they were just teaching me to depend on your strength in the dark days? All my tears got me crying out to you again. What if maybe every broken place I've been was a godsend? I remember being convinced there'd never been a winter so cold. Turns out spring was around the corner. You were turning it into gold. And this feeling from Spirit that it is going to require a lot of trust in the uncertainty for us to be able to stick this landing. But it doesn't require more faith than that of the mustard seed that, it's Christ speaks to. You only have to have, just a hair width length of faith beyond your doubt. And so that's what we're really encouraged right now with this first energy, is to really embrace this test, this initiation, and this challenge, and to know that it leads to our ultimate healing. Before I move on to the next supporting energy, I noticed there's a comment, so I will be right back. Awesome. Thank you guys for your comments. I love reading them in the chat. The next supporting energy from spirit is that of believing in impossible causes and prayers now, which create channels of possibility, miraculous shifts, and synchronistic encounters. The power of the divine to shift what seems like an impossible situation. And Spirit calls this the diligent work that we must do to gather the honey, our daily manna from the divine, the immortal sweetness of the Christos or Christed awareness. The lyrics, what if you were making me strong? What if you were here all along? What if I'm right where you want me? And so once again, realizing that kind of resistance is futile in this death and rebirth cycle that we are currently in. But when we begin to embrace it, when we begin to accept it, when we start to wonder, what if this is making me strong? What if, God is with me in this? And what if I'm actually right where I'm supposed to be? When we start to do that, we begin to release our suffering and our victim consciousness and the energies of martyrdom that come with that, because victimness and victim consciousness and martyrdom are really just the flip of each other, the inverse of each other. And so Spirit says miracles will happen when we choose to be steadfast about something or someone. This does not mean remaining in a situation which is harmful to us. It means knowing we can believe anything is possible and that everyone is ultimately forgivable. We are freeing ourselves from heavy emotional burdens, never giving up on what we want for ourselves. The path to our desire is now possible. We may not know how, when, or where things will align for us, but that is not our responsibility. We participate in deep prayer and active receptivity, showing up to our next right action. And here the lyrics were, something's different about me. There's been a switch in my demeanor. And if you ask me why I'm changing, I found my life when I found grace. It is amazing. And so this feeling that when we're in, if you want to look at it as, an elevator and we're in these lower floors of the elevator and everything feels really heavy and dense, it's really hard to know that there are higher floors, that there are different channels out there that we can switch into. But when we begin to call on grace and we begin to prioritize our relationship with our inner spirit, with our soul, with God, with the Trinity, which is the mind, the body, and the soul together with the spirit, we are then able to have that switch take place in our demeanor, and people begin to see us radiating an inner light, and they may not know what it is, but they know there's something different about us. And when we move into a room, we then become the soul of that space, and we begin to magnetize people and situations and resources and experiences toward us that only uplift ourselves and everyone around us. And that is how we become a true light worker and love worker on this planet. So before I move into the next supporting energy, I'm going to open the floor and the chat. Spirit speaks to small steps and the next right action. That right now we don't need to be looking, 3 weeks ahead, 3 months ahead, 3 years ahead. We simply need to ask for help in this moment, to trust that we have allies both in this physical realm and in the spirit realm, and to take the small steps, the next right action, to do what our intuition and our instinct is calling us to do in this now moment. Spirit acknowledges that the right people are going to appear to help ease the burdens in our life. The bifurcation of worlds moves into the trifurcation of worlds. And so in 2020, we had this revisioning process for humanity. And in 2021, we began to see who the spiritual adults were, who was taking responsibility and bringing forth spiritual integrity into their lives. And in 2022, we really began to see a polarity and a bifurcation, a forking or a division of polarities into two branches. And now, as we move into the frequency of 2023, we're going to start to experience what Spirit recalls to refers to as the trifurcation or the Trinity, the balance of the middle path or the middle way, where the spirit, the body, and the soul are in alignment. And so this is why these right people begin to appear to ease the burden of our life. This is why we can no longer have to effort towards things, but remind that we can be open to receiving help from both the physical and the spiritual realms. And all we have to do is take that next right step. So we have the clarity and the knowledge needed to make important decisions. And we're going to experience unexpected resources, gifts, and blessings coming from multiple places. So we're encouraged to be open to all these things and to be not limited in our thinking or our scope of how we might receive these things. And Spirit said, look for signs that when we ask, we will receive what we need. The matrix is always engaging us, but we have to be alert to its messages. And Spirit says synchronicity is engaged within us the moment we request assistance. We will not be let down. This is a time of lightening our load. Ask for what we need and expect to get it, staying in the frequency of appreciation and gratitude. And that is probably the most important thing of all. When we begin to just appreciate the little things around us and stay in gratitude for the blessings that we already have and acknowledge them and write them down and speak to them and pray over them daily and be thankful for them, it increases our vibration and it attracts only more and more good things toward us. The lyrics, my mind is a bittersweet place, always leaves a bittersweet taste. When I go there, I don't want to stay. Let's visit on another day. Human is a tough disease. Yeah, it's slowly killing me. But there's another side in existence still, spirituality. I just want to know you better than I did before. I don't want to stand here knowing that there's something more. On the horizon, I keep pressing until I find you. Yeah, I know that you're out there. I hear you loudest in the silence. Lord, where are you? You're taking me to only God knows where, but I know that I'll find you on the horizon. And so, Spirit wanting to remind us that as we take these next right actions, we are actually creating our horizon. The lyrics, Daddy always told me that you're going places, but it's hard when you don't know what place your home is anymore. Mama told me life is always changing, and the only way you're going to make it is to keep your eyes on the shore. And so, once again, this staying focused on our vision, staying rooted in the fortitude of what we know is possible for us, and remembering that this is the time of miracles, of impossible causes. And when we are open to being the living prayer, everything manifests for us. Before I move into the last supporting energy tonight, I will open the floor one more time. Spirit encourages us to trust the niggle, the inner knowing, the inner nudge. What is this niggling or nagging feeling trying to tell us? Spirit also refers to it as the inconvenient push from the universe, and that most people spend many years ignoring this sensation. Stubbornness and rationalization numb us from this inner magic. And until we face this inner nudge, life will continue to just throw us more and more curveballs to awaken it. And so here, Spirit says, draw your attention to what is within you that wishes to burst forth. This niggling is an arrow pointing to what is standing in our way, whether that be a relationship, a conversation, a decision, or a shift which needs to be made, the proverbial stone in our shoe. We often feel this niggling or nagging in our bodies first. Intuition is not only received from the higher realms, but from the body's intuitive knowing, and it works through our senses to deliver us important vibrational information. We're encouraged to take a moment throughout our day to scan our bodies so that we can retrieve this intuitive intelligence and act on it accordingly. And this is how Spirit encourages us to receive the daily manna. Now, we can meditate, sitting cross-legged, we can chant, we can do all of those things, but meditation can be art, it can be dance, it can be walks in nature, it can be so many different ways to connect to the soul and to the divine and to receive this intuitive intelligence from the weave. And of course, it is then up to the ego, the small self the personality to act on it accordingly. This is the co-creation. So now in this moment, we're called to face this intuitive nudge. It may feel scary, but Spirit wants to know we are safe. Answer this calling now. What is this inner sensation trying to tell you? And finally, Spirit ends this part of the reading with, because I've been looking at my skin, but you've been looking at my soul. And once again, reminding us that the small self likes to focus on what it can see, what's right in front of it. It forgets that what we're actually experiencing in this physical sensory realm is our past becoming alive in front of us. And so when we change our thoughts, which then changes our feelings and our vibrational alignment, we begin to resonate more deeply and more expansively at frequencies of love and joy and peace and enlightenment. And that allows us to receive even more and more magic into our lives. And so some of these upheavals, these challenges, these tests that we're experiencing, they kind of are puncturing and pummeling us, even maybe at the skin level. But Spirit has been looking at our soul, and that is who is being protected and guided forward with this great reroute energy, with this divine GPS. So before I do the final wrap up for tonight, I'm going to open the floor one more time. The light transmission this evening, every broken place a godsend, and encouraging us to trust the landing, that yes, we're going to feel the turbulence. We're going to feel the somersaulting through the air, wondering if we're going to stick the landing, but we can trust that we will. This is a test, it is an initiation, but it's also a healing as we move through what Spirit calls this eye of the dragon. We're encouraged to focus on the impossible causes, the miracles which seem just so far out of our grasp, because this portal brings with it miraculous manifestation energy. And all we need to do is follow the next right action, take the small steps, listen to our intuition, our instinct, and to trust that nudge, to trust that niggling feeling. We are in the great reroute, this total lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus. And once again, these energies of release and relinquishing any imbalances of power. And that was one of the most powerful lines that I received in this reading, is that we are relinquishing imbalances of power. So even if it feels overwhelming to the small self who is, going down one train track and all of a sudden shifting to another train track, very overwhelming, it's also shifting us into our right place, into energies which are harmonious, which are balanced, which are fair, and which are equitable. And yes, it may feel like a ripcord being pulled out, but we have to trust that the parachute is going to open, and that not only are we going to have an amazing landing, but we're going to have an exhilarating ride. So I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate you so much for receiving this energy from Spirit, for being here and joining our hearts and our minds together in this beautiful space, which is not in person, but as close as we can get right now. And just honor you and in so much gratitude. I will open the floor up just one more time before we close out in prayer. And then I will see everyone on the live call in the chat afterwards. Once again, thank you for listening. Appreciate you so much. All right. Well, we will see everyone next Monday evening. Thank you again for being here. And we look forward to meeting as soon as we can. And thank you for everyone in the chat who's making me smile. I am so grateful and so appreciative to have you on this call.